Welcome back, everybody, to Fantasy Armchair Athletes. This is your one-stop shop to out-research your fantasy opponent so that, if you're new, you make sure that you leave a like and subscribe for daily content that'll put you ahead of your league mates. This is your, by far, best source in terms of in-depth research. I will be answering all of your questions today. I'll be doing a draft, and I'm trying to really make more of a habit of doing this. Just going to try and do some mock drafts, go through some things. We're going to go into Fantasy Underdog or Underdog Fantasy Best Ball in a little bit as well. But that is for a different stream. Just going to go over some general NFL news for today. For starters, Russell Gage may have just suffered a season-ending injury. So not the best news if you have him or if you were looking to get him. I'll give you the news on it right away here. So Gage, with the knee injury, he had a target share of just 7% last year, but with Mike Evans being almost 30 years of age and Chris Godwin getting more and more usage, he was more of the volume guy last year. The door was open for Gage to get a greater share in 2023. This opens the door now for Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and I would say it's in that order considering that Godwin is 2 years younger than Mike Evans. They can benefit from this, but rookie wide receiver Trey Palmer is currently set to get the nod at wide receiver 3. He had 4 receptions for over 30 yards in their first preseason game this season, and Tampa Bay ran nearly 70 plays per game last year. That is more than anybody else in the entire league. They were so pass-heavy, they neglected the run in Rachaad White and, of course, Leonard Fournette. That is all the more reason to maybe use that very last pick in your draft on Palmer or wait a week and grab him off of free agency. Just my 2 cents on that one. And then Treylon Burks, another one. This is not a season-ending injury, but it is still one that we should keep an eye on. He went down with a knee injury as well. He sprained his knee. Looks like it's an LCL sprain, not too serious. He's expected to just miss a few weeks. That is a run-heavy team to begin with when you consider Derrick Henry's production and impact. But Okonkwo, the tight end, caught fire with a few double-digit fantasy performances down the stretch last season. And then, of course, if DeAndre Hopkins is half of what he used to be, expect some double coverage and safety help outside of the numbers to focus on Hopkins from the defenses. This could ultimately help Okonkwo. Burks being out for possibly a couple of weeks in the regular season could only help Okonkwo's target share more and more and more. Kyle Phillips in there as well. Didn't have too much of a sample size to go off of last season, but in really deep leagues, maybe that's a guy where you watch him produce for about a week, and from there you grab him off of waivers. More of a wait-and-see guy for sure. Coming up, there is a series where I'm going to draft the worst possible fantasy football team imaginable. I'm going to attempt to make the playoffs through trades and free agency. You're going to see me draft a bunch of backups. I'm thinking about maybe asking all of you to pick my team. I will live stream that, of course. Maybe I'll be allowed one starter, and maybe it'll be Evan joking around like a kicker. And from there, the goal is for me to show all of you, you don't have to rely on a phenomenal draft, or if your draft goes bad, to win the championship. If you have the worst drafted team and you see the adjusted or the projected points scored come up and it says, oh, you have the worst team out of 12 or 14 or 16 or 8 or 10, whatever it is, your season's not over there. It's all about swinging great trades, taking advantage through free agency, going from there, and of course, paying attention to news like the news that I just told you with Treylon Burks and Russell Gage. A season-ending injury for Gage, and one that will keep Burks out for at least a few weeks. You have to monitor those things. The last thing you want is for somebody to go down. Maybe they're a day-to-day or they're questionable or a game-time decision. You miss out on it. So those are things that we're really going to focus on, but I'm really looking forward to not only drafting the worst team possible, but kind of seeing the reactions within the group chat with whoever I'm drafting with. I'm going to try and make it a random league. I don't want people to understand what I'm doing. I want them to kind of just see me draft this horrible team and go, okay, well, there's one gone. I'm definitely beating him, and then hopefully I surprise them, and the goal is to make a playoff run. So now we're going to do a mock draft and then a fantasy Q&A. I will answer the first couple that I see. I see Richard's here. I see Jason Sackett is here as well. So welcome, guys. Good to see you here. Richard here first. So Sackett, you've got a two-man keeper, Eckler, Derrick Henry, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, half-point PPR, so a bit more focus on volume. I'm feeling Eckler and Amon-Ra, so I won't miss out on the top wide receiver. I will also have a top 6 pick. So you've got a pick 2 out of Eckler, Henry, and Amon-Ra. I'm going to mirror what you're saying there. Austin Eckler is, I believe, 2 years younger than Derrick Henry. He obviously has the pass-catching upside. Even though it's only half-point PPR, we have to understand that Derrick Henry is knocking on the door of 30 years old, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of my favorite players in the entire NFL just because of the sheer volume. Regardless of if the Lions were up 20 or down 30, he was getting targeted from Jared Goff by far his favorite. Jameson Williams hasn't panned out too much. Khalif Raymond has his flashes. And, of course, Hawkinson is now gone. So I think, the heavy, and not to mention the entire backfield in Detroit was completely tossed. So I would definitely say Amon-Ra St. Brown is safe, even just for volume's sake. I know he's not a running back. I know he's not getting the ball 100% of the time. But as we're learning, especially with running backs outside of, Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler, the running back is not valued as high anymore because we have so many duos developing. Teams are not using just one guy 30 to 35 times a game. They're using two, and they're trying to prolong the careers of both of those guys so they can be around when they're 28, 29, and 30 years old. So I would definitely say we go with Austin Eckler because of the pass catching upside. Not too sure how good the Chargers are going to be this year, especially with that defense. It was on full display when they blew that seismic lead against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoffs. I think that Justin Herbert's going to have to throw a lot, and there's going to be a lot of dump-off opportunities to Austin Eckler. Once again, he's a gem. You can't stay away from him. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, once again, one of the most high usage, and he's got a pretty good target share. I don't know it off the top of my head as well. We're going to go off of Eckler and Amon-Ra, the two best pass catchers, despite it being half-point PPR. If it was just standards, Jason, it would be a different story. I might lean towards Henry, as opposed to, I wouldn't even say over Eckler. I would still probably say Eckler and Amon-Ra St. Brown for sure. Those are two great pass catchers. Eckler's still going to get plenty of volume. And when you have a pass-catching running back, right, game script doesn't matter. You could be down 30, you could be up 20. If you're up 20, you're running the ball to Eckler. If you're down 30, you're going to throw the ball a lot. Eckler's got one of the more extensive route trees of any running back in the league. So I'm going Eckler, and Amon-Ra St. Brown also have a top 6 pick. Jason, it looks like you are in phenomenal shape. Richard is in here. He says 5-man keeper, only considering 3 of them, Dak, Waller, and Cook. What are the other options? I guess I would ask Richard, but Dak's going to throw a decent amount of picks. As long as it's not a 2 or 3 pick game, it's not going to hurt you too well. Darren Waller has been passing the eye test with flying colors in training camp over there with Daniel Jones. Looks like he could definitely be a favorite target. I mean, look at Evan Ingram. Despite all the drop, the drop jokes and stuff, he was still getting targeted a decent amount in New York. They do like their tight ends over there. Dalvin Cook is now the 10th highest paid running back in the entire league. He's making $8.6 million. And he's coming up on his age 27 season. So Dalvin Cook obviously is going to get used more than Breece Hall unless there is a crazy, and I mean crazy, difference in production. But Exhibit A, right? You look at the fact that Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott were part of the same backfield. Elliott was making way more than Pollard, and despite the fact that Pollard was so much more efficient, Elliott was getting shoveled the ball inside the 5-yard line. And maybe that's more because he's bigger, who knows. But Prey's also in here. Yo, good to see you, Prey. So yeah, Jason, for you, I'm definitely going with confidence Austin Eckler and Amon-Ra St. Brown, just due to sheer volume and, of course, the age factor with Derrick Henry almost being 30. And Richard, I like the 3 decisions for sure. If I were to pick one that I'm kind of shaky with, I would say Dak is extremely replaceable. I could probably think of 12 to 14 guys that I would take over Dak Prescott right now. We're even going into Kenny Pickett range because honestly, the last 8 games of his season, his rookie season, we saw a lot of development. We saw a great connection with Mr. Pickens, obviously Freiermuth as well, and Najee Harris with some pass catching upside. But Richard, if there are some other options, or if you want me to expand on that at all, or if I'm not understanding that, just let me know. But I do like all 3 of those. If there's one that I were to say is shaky, I'd say you can toss Dak for somebody else. Maybe even, depending on the format of your league, go get a flex. But Dak is very, very, very replaceable for sure. All right, so we're going to do a mock draft here. Hope all of you are doing well. And this is just an open Q&A session. So from here, if you have any questions at all fantasy related, you keep dropping those in there. Let's go 12. Just disappeared. 1 second here. I'm going to go through some strategy as well. So I'll kind of just talk all of you guys through my strategy as I go through this draft, but I will get to your questions as I see them. Babjab, good to see you again. Corey, missed your live stream yesterday, but gave it a good listen. I've done a handful of drafts and feel like I have one good running back and a bunch of great wide receivers. Should I draft strict running back first? Babjab, I have to know what your scoring format is for your league. If it is standard PPR, I'm going wide receiver and pass-catching running back, a.k.a. Austin Eckler, right? heavy. I am definitely investing in those pass catchers regardless of the position they play. I'd even take some tight ends, a select few like a Travis Kelce, a George Kittle, and maybe even a TJ Hawkinson over some running backs in the league, depending on who we're comparing. So I got to know that. Jason Sackett says, thoughts on Rachaad White? Jason, it's all going to depend on that offensive line. They were horrible in Tampa Bay last year. Obviously, they had some injuries with Wirfs and Jensen really having to hold the fort down, and even they had, games where they were bruised up or missed as well, depending on which guy you're talking about. But for Rachaad White, he was more efficient than Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette looked like a 35-year-old out there, and he wasn't nearly that. So I think Rachaad White's got some upside. He's more of a pass catcher than Leonard Fournette was down the stretch, just because Fournette started to get hurt. His age was showing a little bit, wear and tear, whatever you want to call it. But I would say Rachaad White, maybe running back 25 to 27. That's kind of where I would put him right now, because the Bucs O-line, as you're saying right there in the chat, was just absolute trash. And to the point where they really abandoned the run. I mean, we talk about a team, and I'll switch over here. I'm in a mock draft lobby right now, but let's go. We talk about a team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that ran so many plays. Oh, 1 second. Plays, run. Oh, it's because I'm on Yahoo. There it is. We talk about a team in Tampa Bay that ran 68.8 plays per game. I mean, holy crap, what did they do? They abandoned the run, right? And if you look, honestly, down the line, these are teams that just don't run the ball a whole lot. The LA Chargers are the exception in terms of their running back usage, because there were so many dump-off passes to Austin Eckler. Arizona, James Conner did better than expected. He's honestly someone I will hardly ever draft unless he has dropped way down in the order, right? Washington, was it Antonio Gibson? Was it, there were so many guys in that backfield. So we weren't really confident with them either. And then Philadelphia is a very run-heavy team, but they are just run and gun. I mean, they are going to go no huddle a ton. So, I mean, those top 4 or 5 teams just don't run the ball a whole lot. And with Tampa Bay, it was a combination of things, just lack of production out of the backfield, but also the offensive line just looked horrible. So I would say Rachaad White is somebody that, will probably get picked late in your draft, but I wouldn't be too mad about just staying away from him if you can go and get somebody who's going to get more volume. This Tampa Bay team completely abandoned the run, and that's another thing I want to look at is run-pass split. We saw this a lot last year, and it helped us. And right up there, why are they running so many plays? Well, because when there's an incomplete pass, obviously the play stops, or if you get out of bounds, that also works, but Tampa Bay passed the ball more than anybody else in the league. And Rachaad White's got some pass-catching upside. I'm not going to deny that. But, he's not on the level of a Jonathan Taylor from a couple of years ago, of an Austin Eckler from last year, Matt Forte, if you want to go 10 years back. The real revolution that Le'Veon Bell started, in my opinion. Rachaad White was not the most efficient out there. He was better than Leonard Fournette for some time being. I mean, this is the only thing I'm really excited about, and it's more so volume. These were the definition of checkdowns. Rachaad White was not killing anybody with yards by any means. But, 50 receptions, that's an extra 50 points if you're playing standard PPR. You get an extra 29 from the yards, and he got a couple of touchdowns. Rachaad White's okay, but he's on a team that just does not really identify as one that loves the run. As a matter of fact, as we just said, they abandon the run a lot. It's Baker Mayfield. It's a new circus. I'm not really sure what's in the cards, but this is not a team that by any means showed any intention to emphasize the run and to try and bully other teams in the trenches because of the debilitating O-line, because of the fact that they just didn't have home run guys behind the line. They had Leonard Fournette, who's extremely old, and they had Rachaad White, who in my opinion is unproven. He's shown some flashes, but he's unproven. Okay, so for BapJap, ESPN standard PPR, lots of good quality depth that people were missing out on. James Conner, Christian Watson, to name a few. I think the tight end position will still be the wild card. Can't believe there are people drafting Kelce in the first round. Overrated Munch, or am I missing something? A bunch of great wide receivers. Should I draft strict running back first? Standard PPR, with the exception of your Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler right now. Honestly, I'm going wide receiver. I want a pass catcher. I want somebody who's going to get that volume, because, Babjap, we have the A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones duo. We have the Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift duo now in the Eagles, which I think is very, very underrated. You know, we have so many different duos in the NFL. It's no longer a bunch of Derrick Henrys, a bunch of Jonathan Taylors. There's still the occasional all-purpose three-down back, but honestly, I think the value is definitely there with some wide receivers, unless you have a definitive pass catcher. If you have number 1 overall and you go with CMC, that's probably the only one I'm not questioning you on. But if you were to go even after Eckler, because I think there might be some offensive changes there, if you were to go after a handful of running backs, not named Christian McCaffrey, I'm not a big fan of that strategy. And then what was the other thing? As you said with Travis Kelce, we'll just look at the numbers here, and I've got a pretty definitive answer for you. Thank you guys for joining the stream. Make sure you leave a like. Let's try and get to 10 likes today, and we will do another mock draft tomorrow and another Q&A session if we can get 10 likes today. So smack that like button. Make sure you spread the word on this stream to others. I'm going to pull up a couple different tabs here. Okay. Here's what we need. That's standard. Well, if you're playing standard, Travis Kelce right there is the only one in the entire league who is averaging double digits. Here is why Travis Kelce is still going in the first round. There's a couple of reasons. I mean, holy crap, right? 6-point gap. If you go to any other position, Babjap, you're not going to see a 6-point gap from position player 1 to position player 2. And we can do that right here. We can go to quarterback. Patrick Mahomes in the first round. Say what you want about that. It's actually Jalen Hurts averaging more than anybody else, but Patrick Mahomes is right there. I mean, total points, he had 16 more. That's 1 more per week than Josh Allen. Let's go to running backs. The drop from running back 1 to running back 2, if we just want to go with average, 0.7 points. Wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2. We're looking at Jetta, Devontae Adams. The drop from 1 to 2 in terms of average, they've got Cooper Kupp up there before the injury. He'll be interesting when he comes back. 0.7. Then we go to tight end. The drop from 1 to 2. If we're talking about George Kittle, who is tight end 3, over 5 points per game. Babjap, he is worth it. He is practically a wide receiver. And even with that, he is definitely, and I mean definitely, beating a lot of wide receivers in multiple categories when we're talking about receptions, reception yards. He is a red zone machine. And by the way, Kansas City just lost Tyreek Hill last year. Patrick Mahomes still went ballistic, threw for 5,000 yards, and it's because this guy, they've got that chemistry. In my opinion, I would definitely justify grabbing Travis Kelce in the first round because you have a 5 to 6 point leg up on the next best tight end. And if somebody ends up, letting it drop and going after a Tyler Higbee or a Darren Waller, they're down 9 points a game to your Travis Kelce, who puts up double digits every single week. We've got 2 exceptions. I will gladly take someone who has 7.6 points as their worst performance of the entire year as a tight end. So I think Travis Kelce is definitely a justifiable first-round pick just because of the gap in value. You get a gap in value of 1 point. From running back 1 to running back 2, from quarterback 1 to quarterback 2, from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2. We could do the same thing and play the same game with kickers and defenses as well. There's just such a sizable gap between tight end 1 and tight end 2 because of the production of Travis Kelce and because of the prolonged connection that we've seen between Mahomes and Kelce that I think he's definitely worth it. You just don't see that gap. And in general, I mean, look, we had what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tight ends, and this is, counting some guys who weren't healthy at all, and Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. We're talking about 8 tight ends who were averaging, really 6, who were averaging in the double digits, and it just got thin from there. Freiermuth was barely off the mark. Dalton Schultz was in and out and had some off weeks. I mean, we're going down to Taysom Hill, who's a Swiss Army knife. Dawson Knox, who's probably going to be filed out of relevancy this year. Cole Kmet at 8. We had a lot of 8, 7, and 6 point per game guys who people were happy to grab off the waiver wire. But while you're doing that because your tight end went down or something happened or just wasn't going to plan, Travis Kelce's putting up almost 20 points per game. So BabJeb, he's definitely worth it in my opinion. That's just my take. Cam Erickson. Cam, good to see you, man. Was hoping to snag Breece Hall again this year, but don't know how much action he'll get returning from ACL injury, and now with them signing Delvin. Well, okay, Cameron. So there's two things I have to say about the Breece Hall and Delvin Cook thing. First off, yes, Breece Hall is coming off an ACL. So how much is he going to get used? In my opinion, it's going to be one of those situations where him and Delvin Cook are kind of used 50-50 until Breece Hall completely leans back in, and then maybe they lean on him more as you get down the stretch. You've got fresh legs regardless, right? The other thing, and this is one that I care about a lot, and if you watch the Taylor Heineke interview, I'm going all over the place here. If you watch the Taylor Heineke interview from last year, teams are going to play what they spend money on. And if this is updated, it is. Delvin Cook, despite the fact it is a one-year contract, is the 10th richest running back here. He has the 10th best salary, essentially, in 2023. Obviously blowing the rookie contract of Breece Hall out of the water. Delvin Cook's going to get used, and yes, Cameron, I mean, he just tore his ACL. We have to ask ourselves the question, what is the risk after that first ACL tear of A, Breece Hall not being the same guy we saw for the first 6 to 7 weeks in 2022, and B, him re-injuring it? Meanwhile, they paid Delvin Cook $8.6 million, and I don't think it's just to be a backup for Breece Hall. I think money talks, Cameron, and I think anytime a team invests that much, sure, Delvin Cook was pushing for a lot. There's a reason he didn't stay in Minnesota. It's not because he didn't like it there, right? But the 10th highest paid running back is Delvin Cook. I expect him to get the same volume as Nick Chubb, as Aaron Jones, as Derrick Henry, as Tony Pollard with Zeke gone, or at least something close to it. And that does not look like 8 to 10 touches a game, 8 to 10 rushes a game. Delvin Cook's going to be very involved. And I would say at least it's going to be 50-50. James, good to see you in here. You're doing a mock with viewers today. I sure am. I'm about to start a mock draft in just a second. I'm just addressing a few questions. Cameron, I'm considering drafting CMC round 1, but don't know yet. Justin Jefferson might be equally as good of a pick too. Cameron, especially if it's standard PPR, I am taking CMC and Justin Jefferson as 1A, 1B. They will probably be the most, and I believe they are the most drafted at the 1 and 2 overall spot. Those guys are both equally worth it. CMC is in an offense that's a little more involved in that there's more dimensions to it. Deebo Samuel gets used on rushes and passes. Obviously, Elijah Mitchell being healthy could change some things, and the splits are very different when Elijah Mitchell is healthy. But again, how healthy is the backfield for the 49ers going to be? That seems like a revolving door. But Cameron, I would say CMC and Justin Jefferson are 1A, 1B. I'm giving 1A to Justin Jefferson, though. He hasn't had any injury issues yet. Obviously, he's a wide receiver, gets plenty of usage regardless of the score. Kirk Cousins and him have had the best connection in the entire NFL, and that's a phenomenal fantasy stack. And speaking of that, we're going to go into a mock. I'm looking 12, 14. This will work. And I'll just kind of talk you guys through. This league has been filled. Holy crap, that was fast. Okay, people are doing a lot of mocks. Happy mock season. We're we're just going to go with this. I really don't care about the label, you know, beginner, pro, whatever. I mean, we're just drafting, and I'm kind of going against ADP or average draft position anyway. James says, got a good one for you. Hosting a pay per loss 12-man high stakes. Ooh, I like it. So you start out with a certain amount, and then you pay as you lose. Half-point PPR. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, a pair of flexes. How does your draft strategy change from a standard league? Also 6 points per throwing touchdown. I mean, right there, you just said it, James. I'm definitely prioritizing quarterback. You know, usually I'll go after and say somebody who is drafting Patrick Mahomes in the first round is not the smartest because of what I just showed on here, right? There's less than a 1-point gap between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts in terms of points per game. And Hurts actually had Mahomes in terms of points per game. But if you're getting 6 points per throwing touchdown, I'm going to emphasize a little bit more the importance of the quarterback position, because all of a sudden, if somebody throws 10 more touchdown passes than somebody else, that's a bigger difference by about 50%. In terms of my prioritization of everything else, half-point PPR, I'm still pretty wide receiver heavy, but you can get away a little bit with getting a running back in the first 2 rounds. I'm typically going wide receiver, running back, or wide receiver, running back, wide receiver. And then if I want to stretch for a quarterback in round 4, I can get somebody of Justin Herbert's level around that time. So really, James, I'm keeping my same wide receiver / running back balance strategy with that. The pay for loss, man, that is something right there. And Cameron says CMC is also throwing touchdowns too. You are right, Cameron. But yeah, my main emphasis, especially because of what you said right at the end there, is getting a quarterback early. If I want to go after Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, even Justin Fields with his rushing upside, I might just do that. And this is salary. 1 second. These are filling up so fast. Holy cow. Let's see here. Keep firing those fantasy questions in, guys. I got in one. There we go. That one's at 810, so we can talk a bit more here. Again, if you're just joining, make sure you leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. If we can get 10 likes on today's stream, I will do another mock draft tomorrow. I'm trying to make a routine of this, but I'll make even more time if we can get 10 likes today. So make sure you hit that like button. I appreciate all of your support so far. Good to be back. Just came off a hiatus from a couple of days ago, so very good to be back. James says, also 25% of the pot goes to the most points scored in the regular season. All right, James, I'm a big fan of that. So if you're hosting it too, credit to you, James. I have seen so many times, and I'm sure many people can reflect this as well, where somebody goes 7-9, but they have the most points scored, right? Or they have the most points scored in the league one week, except one team beat them, and it's the team that they are playing against. So obviously that reflects in their record, but they still have the most points scored. I'm a commissioner in a pair of leagues, and I'll obviously update you on all of those as well, and what I'm doing in my strategy there, and all the analytics I'm diving into. But I am also making sure that I reward the person who has the most points scored. Just in case they miss the playoffs, I'm at least giving them their entry fee back. I feel like that's fair. 25% of the pot going to the most points scored. So you're looking for just raw production. Head-to-head value doesn't matter as much, James. I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, for your strategy, definitely emphasizing the quarterback there. Yeah, draft strategy in general. I'm probably you'll see me do this here even when I go for a stack. The only time I'll take a tight end in the first round is Travis Kelce, and again, it is because of that sizable gap in the tight end market. I mean, Travis Kelce was scoring north of 18 points per game in PPR. And obviously everybody else scoring about 13, 14. And that's your George Kittles. That's even your Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews had a drop-off too. Snake PPRs are just not around right now for some reason. There we go. That's what I want. That'll start in a minute. I'm hosting, having trouble figuring out the transaction strategy. Do I use Venmo and risk going against their gambling policy? Weekly ups and downs and loss settlements. Ooh, I am not a law expert, but James, I mean, you could do Cash App, right? And then it's just a simple transaction. You have them put something. I've done Cash App before and just have them pay at the end of the year. So let's say you're doing, for the sake of simplicity, it's a 12-team league, $10 entry fee. First gets 80, second gets 30, third gets 10, and we'll just leave the whole rewarding somebody who had the most points in the regular season scored. We'll leave that out of the equation just for the sake of simplicity. You know, you've got everybody put their dues in for the 120, and then have 8 people pay the first person, 3 pay the second, and then obviously that third place just keeps their money. I've done Cash App, but yeah, if Venmo's got a strict no gambling policy, I would be careful with that. Never know how they could track things down, so that is my take on that. But I do love that you're giving the flowers to the person who scores the most points in the regular season, because all too often that person does not end up getting in the playoffs, and then they don't get any money, which is not fun. Keep dropping those fantasy questions in the chat, everyone. We are going into a mock lobby. I'm going to take you through my strategy. Oh, it's all auto. Oh, people are taking off auto. Okay, we're good. There we go. Even Austin Eckler, I'm a little reluctant. I mean, he does have so much pass catching upside. I could see somebody taking Austin Eckler first overall, but I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, all 4 of those, number 1 overall is fine. If you want to twist my arm on Travis Kelce, I might give it to you just because, again, we have that sizable gap in production from Travis Kelce to whoever the tight end 2 is. Travis Kelce has been the best tight end in the league fantasy-wise, and just overall in general as a pass catcher. If you want to argue about blocking, obviously that's a different story, but the last 3 years, it's been Travis Kelce. The question has been who's going to be second to him. James says, I need to enforce the pay per loss weekly, though. I can't risk having people not pay and accumulate their loss amounts towards the end of the year. Yeah, then people are going to put it off, right, James? So in my opinion, if I was the commish for your league, I might just have everyone pay their... Are you doing pay per loss and there's no pot that you're taking into? Or how do I ask this? Let's say it's $5 pay per loss and you're going the first 14 weeks and playoffs are left out. I'm not exactly sure how your format is. If it's 5 for 14... Ooh, that is loud. If it's 5 for 14, we are underway. That's $70. I would say take the $70 and kind of run a credit on them. So if somebody goes 7-7 in 14 games, they lost $35, they kept 35, and you divvy it up from there. That way you don't have to worry about the whole honor system. You just report that credit to them every week. That way they're not going, well, this person took my money at the beginning of the year. I have no clue what to do now, right? No entry. Okay. Maybe you just turn the max loss amount into an entry. And then whatever they don't lose, you give it back to them. That's going to take a spreadsheet, but it will kill the honor system aspect of, hey, you lost 2 weeks ago, it's already week 4, can you please fork over your money? You're starting to stack it up, because the more it stacks up, the more someone's not going to want to pay, and then you've got turmoil within your entire league, right? So I'm back half of the first round. Here, I don't mind taking a Tony Pollard, honestly. This is where I would start to think about running backs, but usually first round, if I can get a decently early pick, I'm going wide receiver, running back, wide receiver. I've got a good flip here. I'm taking 2 out of the next 8 picks. And Garrett Wilson is still up. We're not worried about him. He should be back. Love Garrett Wilson this year. You look at his sheer production with that horrible quarterback room of Zach Wilson, Mike White, Chris Streveler, and 2022 Joe Flacco. You've got to think he's going to have a jump in production, and at least the projections are giving him a greater touchdown output, which I'm a big fan of. Right now, my thoughts are going Tony Pollard because obviously Zeke is out. Zeke was a touchdown bandit, dude. Of the 20 touchdowns between the two of them, 12 went to Zeke. Our options, Devontae Adams. There's a new wide receiver in town in Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm going to go Tony Pollard because of that pass catching upside, because of the efficiency. I mean, holy cow, 5.2 yards per carry, and Zeke's gone. We're going to get more volume. Let's go Pollard. And it's my hope I can get Garrett Wilson on the way back. Otherwise, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown for the sake of sheer volume. No entry. All right, we're going to go down the line here, answer some questions while looking at the draft board. Saquon goes 13. Derrick Henry goes 14. He's going to keep dropping. I mean, would not doubt it if he's an average second rounder, even in these leagues. Kittle is always hard for me to draft because the Niners just have so many offensive weapons, and Kittle plays an integral part with blocking that he's not putting up points consistently. Cameron, that's always kind of been, his role. I would honestly argue that he's the best pass catching and just blocking tight end in general. I wouldn't mind taking him in the 4th or 5th round. But the only time I'm breaking that rule where you take a tight end in the 1st round is Travis Kelce, because he has been their wide receiver 1. Even with Tyreek Hill, you could have made the argument. James says max loss is 390. Was trying to avoid that, but yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, James, if you want to swerve the whole honor system thing, you've got to go around it, right? It is my turn. Oh, Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson both go. That's not ideal. I still want a wide receiver, but I want somebody who's going to get some volume. A.J. Brown did not get volume, but he had a lot of big plays. That's a run-heavy team. I'm going to go Jalen Waddle. That was not ideal. If I could have flipped around and got Amon-Ra, that would have been pretty cool. But so in terms of a stack option, if I can get somebody later, T. Higgins is not going to fall to me, which is unfortunate. I can't go Higgins-Burrow. I could go Tua Waddle. What's going on with Jonathan Taylor? Should he be considered for drafting or hold out to wait? I'm waiting on that situation, Cameron, especially considering how sought after he is. If somebody else wants to jump up and waste their 3rd or 2nd round pick on an unknown and untold story right now on JT, I'm going to let him do it. Jason says, James, I use Venmo for gambling all the time. Just label the payment for grass cutting. I do not condone that, but that is an idea. Just figured getting weekly $30 Venmos for 13 weeks would look sus. And James, that's another thing that you can kind of avoid in terms of that, right? If you did take the down payment, it's not ideal saying, yep, I'll give you your money back later. But, that's one way to do it. Babjep, I had Garrett Wilson last year, but he was inconsistent. Maybe I'll take a flyer on him. Garrett Wilson was dealing with one of the worst, if not the worst, quarterback rooms in the entire league, Babjep. I am 100% hammering the buy on Garrett Wilson, even late 1st round. He went early 2nd here, 17th overall. He's got a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. And by the way, I'm a Bears fan, but I'm putting that aside for the fact that he's going to have so much more production than a quarterback room that had Zach Wilson, Chris Streveler, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. Okay, I'm taking Aaron Rodgers over that crew every day of the week. That's why he was inconsistent. He had nothing to work with. The fact that man managed to put up an 1,100-yard season with a few touchdowns and was top 25 in the wide receiver conversation, that's pretty impressive to me. I wonder if Zeke is worthy of a late pick in 10 to 12 team leagues. I'd say he definitely is. He's still got a decent amount of rushes in Dallas, despite the fact that Tony Pollard was way more efficient than him. Pollard was rushing for better than 5 yards per carry, and Zeke was below that 4 yards per carry line. But Zeke had 12 touchdowns to Pollard's 8. If we see that same story told here with Bill Belichick, who loves his big running backs, LeGarrette Blount was kind of doing that a few years ago, then yeah, I would say we definitely take Zeke. Someone's going to get him if you don't. If you have Ramondre, yeah, you could do the handcuff strategy, as Legendary Pest Control is saying. James says, convince me that I am crazy for bumping up Montgomery as early as the 6th. I think he's one of the biggest values this year. Only thing is, James, they took a 1st round back, the only one that really shocked people outside of Bijan Robinson in terms of where he was taken, in Jahmyr Gibbs. I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs being a top 10 paid running back, he's going to get a lot of rushes, and Montgomery's more so going to be there as a support. But, rookie contract's up. He got paid a decent amount, $6 million a year. Montgomery will be good. It worked with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift to an extent, but again, DeAndre Swift was hurt. I wouldn't go 6th. I'd say maybe 9th, 10th, and that's even stretching it just because there are so many other handcuff options. If you want to pair Montgomery with Gibbs, I like it a lot. Herbert's going to eat. I do think Khalil Herbert is going to do phenomenal on a team that ran the ball more than anybody else last year in the Chicago Bears. Cam says, I saw a meme that said the Super Bowl is going to be the Jets versus Bears, and Rodgers, I already know where this is going. Yeah. He's going to win Super Bowl MVP and then retire and say, I still own you. Yep, I've seen that one. 2 running backs in the first 3 is not something that I would typically do, but Aaron Jones is a certified productive pass catcher, and I will gladly take him if he's available. 59 for 395. I'm going Aaron Jones here. Okay, he didn't fall. Someone jumped for Mark Andrews. Can he have a resurgence? Pollard, Jones. Again, not a big fan of taking 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds, but you have a main guy in Pollard with Zeke flying away, and you have Aaron Jones, who it's never really been an issue with him and A.J. Dillon sharing the same backfield because he's more of that volume guy in the pass-catching category. We've got to have somebody to complement Jalen Waddle now on the flip. Wide receivers could be better, but I'll be a very happy camper if I can get the wide receiver 1 on a team that is trying to adjust to a new quarterback in Jordan Love. I feel like that deep ball target in Christian Watson could do wonders. Not too eager to take a gamble on DeAndre. Oh, now I might have to. Chris Godwin I'm looking at too, because obviously Russell Gage out with the season-ending injury. The wide receiver 2, honestly, I believe he's going to be the wide receiver 1 because he had more volume than Mike Evans. Look, 104 receptions to 77. He's healthier. He's younger. I'm probably thinking Godwin here. This doesn't put me in the best spot for a stack. I can't really go with Baker and Godwin and say I have confidence in that in terms of Baker being a consistent producer, at least right now, until I see otherwise. What I could do is Tua. I just like T-Law in general, though. We're going to go Godwin. Best man on the board, in my opinion. Now I'm thinking T-Law, and maybe I get somebody from that loaded wide receiver room. Wow. When did he go? Calvin Ridley went in the 3rd round. Early 3. I'm all about the hype. What is he projected to get? Like 900 yards? That's a pretty good guess, Corey. I mean, Christian Kirk's over there. Zay Jones is over there, despite the fact that he was put side by side with Calvin Ridley for speed. And Evan Ingram, and people have to remember Etienne's a pass catcher too. Legendary Pest Control says, crazy, most people don't want Jones this year. I don't get it. I was thinking nobody would want Jones last year, and I stayed away from him because he wasn't extended yet. So in my mind, Green Bay was maybe going to hand the baton off to A.J. Dillon. I knew Aaron Rodgers leaving was on the horizon, but then they extended Aaron Jones. So, you know, he's embraced that pass-catching role. He was extremely efficient. I say we get at least 1 or 2 more good years out of Aaron Jones before the baton is truly handed off to A.J. Dillon, but there's no longer financial pressure to keep it away from Jones. Is Keenan Allen still someone of value, maybe as a slot or flex? Michael Williams seems to be the new wide receiver 1. I'd say Michael Williams. Cameron is definitely the wide receiver 1, just because he's healthy and obviously younger. Keenan Allen, I'm rating him around the same spot as Adam Thielen, maybe half a round to a full round higher. He's up there in age. We've seen the injury bug bite him. Is it really, really worth it to go after somebody who might have an electric 6 or 7 weeks and then be out for the rest of the season? I'm just going off of what we've seen. Justin Herbert's going to spread the ball out to everybody there. I'm hammering Mike Williams with the status of Keenan Allen right now. Johnny says, 14-team draft. Dang, I'm used to a 10-team league. I mean, I'm typically going 12. Occasionally I'll do 10, but I'm just doing this to kind of get a broader scope of how people are drafting in general. You can look up ADP, but I want to see different scenarios, and this is definitely one I want to see play out. I'll do a 12 after this. I can go back to back. No problem with doing that. I'm really interested, guys, to see where Kenny Pickett goes. He better not go right now. I'm not going after him, but, you know, I saw him. I think someone jumped for him 2 days ago in the 11th round of a 14 team. And I didn't love it, but his last 8 games, he was phenomenal. So, yeah, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I'm usually thinking no thanks. I've got a little time here. But if you look at his game log, And he's in the AFC North, right? He's playing some pretty good defenses, some tough front sevens. 7-5. I care about the game log. Thank you. Okay, if we go... Let's go week 9 on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 touchdown passes to 1 interception. He also ran one in. You know, he's not going to score off the charts for you, but he's going to toss about 200 yards a game, at least at the moment. I think he'll gel a little bit better with Pickens. He's got a great wide receiving core, all things considered, in terms of depth. They don't have a number one that jumps off the chart, but I honestly don't care. If you're somebody who really leaves quarterback on the back burner, and we saw the difference before, where it's not crazy between even quarterbacks 1 and 5, maybe we take a quarterback 17, 18, and Kenny Pickett, and we prioritize the importance of our flexes, right? Oh, I just got back in time. I love Brandon Ayuk. And I'll explain why. Increase in production over the course of each of the first couple of years. He actually got less opportunities last year, and he did more with it. Excuse me, he got less opportunities in 2021 and did more with it as opposed to 2020. 2022, he breaks the 1,000-yard barrier, has a career-best 8 touchdowns. And Deebo Samuel, if I'm not mistaken, he's 27. Okay, but with how they're using him in all-purpose, now wide back, if you will, I'm not too sure how much longer he gets used. Do I take Mr. Lawrence late 6? Deshaun Watson over Trevor Lawrence in the rankings. It's absolutely bonkers to me. What about OBJ now in Baltimore? Mark Andrews is probably still the top target for them. Who else are their receivers? Cameron, they've got Rashad Bateman as well. Obviously, Mark Andrews has always been their first option, but he had some injury issues. Ayuk is a monster. He's hitting 1,200 yards this year. I mean, the guy has been doing absolutely everything right. If you look at all the film, even on a check down, ooh, I'll take T-Law. Even on a check down, you see Brandon Ayuk 20 to 25 yards down the field making a block. I mean, those are things in the locker room that these guys, not to over-speculate, are loving. You know, the coaching staff, guys like George Kittle are saying, we absolutely love that, and that is why he is a wide receiver 1 in this league, at least in the near future, and I think year 4 is when he breaks out. I would say he broke out last year, but I absolutely love Brandon Ayuk and the involvement. Jonathan Taylor left today with the Colts. I saw a personal reason. That guy will be traded sooner or later. I'm staying away from it, honestly. Johnny, it is good to see you once again. Don't hate the team, in all honesty. I don't love spot 11 out of 14. Again, this is a 14-team draft. Yeah, it's Rashad Bateman at the 1, Odell at the 2, Zay Flowers, which I'm excited for. They've got Devin Duvernay in there. They actually went out and nabbed Nelson Aguilar. Isaiah Likely is sitting behind Mark Andrews. They've got Ricard there in the fullback position. I don't see Sammy Watkins on that team anymore, by the way. So that's answering that for you, Cameron. But yeah, Johnny, I am staying away from Jonathan Taylor. I saw he left for personal reasons. That could mean a variety of things. I'm not playing with the unknown, especially after the down year. Maybe he comes back and proves me wrong, but I'm playing the odds here. The yards after catch bros, Kittle, Ayuk, Deebo, and CMC. I agree, man. I agree. So as you can see, I kind of prolong tight end here. If I can take Pat Freiermuth, it's a long shot. And right when I say that, he's gone. Okay. All right. Tyler Higbee had a pretty nice year last year. I like to look at just targets overall, and the fact that Tyler Higbee had 108 targets during that god-awful year. It's a constant fluctuation. I feel like he's going to be a staple there. Cooper Kupp, health is always kind of unknown with him. About half of his career he's been hurt, half he's been healthy. When he's been healthy, he's been electric. But I like Tyler Higbee, in all honesty. Gotta play with the clock here. Higbee, hang around for me. I actually love how this team is turning out, all things considered. I'll do a 12 after this to give you guys a different idea. I want to talk about two very underrated tight ends. Pat Freiermuth was tight end 9. At least that's around where he's being drafted right now. 6.8. Oh, excuse me. Freiermuth, 6.5 targets per game. And there's Tyler Higbee. 6.8. I say that because, and again, there's more factors to consider. Average draft position, obviously the consensus number 1 in Travis Kelce. Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, we've got Freiermuth way down at 9. We have Tyler Higbee way down at 15. I just don't see that much of a drop in production after Higbee thrived in that dumpster fire of an environment. Grade the roster for this 12-man league. Dak, Aaron Jones, Kamara, Taysom Hill, Garrett Wilson, love it. Devontae Smith, love it. Laporta, Lockett, love it. And Montgomery as the starters. I think we can do better than Dak, but honestly, that could be a matter of... Hello. That could be a matter... of just waiver wire pickups. I think a guy like Kenny Pickett could still be hanging around, and we could get away with that. Jahan Dotson in the 7th round. That's a stretch to me. Brian Robinson Jr. did okay out of that backfield, but that was honestly a mess. DeAndre Swift going late 7. Don't hate it. Yeah, Dak's a good volume guy for sure. Oh, Tyreek Hill. Okay, I thought with a 12-man. I don't know why I said Taysom. Yeah, Aaron Jones, solid pass catcher for sure. He's going to get the volume. Alvin Kamara, yep. Tyreek said he's going to retire in a couple years, possibly. Garrett Wilson's going to be a top 5 wide receiver, in my opinion. Devontae Smith got more volume than A.J. Brown, but wasn't getting those deep, catches. But in PPR, all we care about is volume for the most part. And red zone targets. Lockett's Mr. Consistent, takes care of his body. You never see that man taking hard contact. And Montgomery, he'll be a good Swiss Army knife. We're going to go flex heavy here. Not too worried about defenses quite yet. And we are getting thin. I do like Jordan Addison. Okay, he'll be all right. I think someone's got to be that wide receiver too, and it might not be KJ Osborne. He showed some flashes last year, but when there is so much of a focus on a dynamic wide receiver like Justin Jefferson, the second option's got to eat at some point. Teams are going defense already. The Niners went in the 6th round. That means they left out a tight end or a flex of some sort. Not the biggest fan of that, but all power to you. Trying to watch my buys here. I only have a repeat for week 9 and week 10 at the moment. It's worth repeating 13. I want to load up on flexes, right? So I'll probably go defense here, and then I'll come back around on the turn and get a running back who's going to get some reps. Rashad Penny would be a steal. Raheem Mostert, one of the only guys over 30 years of age I'm still trusting to kind of produce, but they're definitely dialing it back on him. Devin Singletary is now in Houston. Gonna have to fight with Pierce. Damian Harris is in Buffalo. What a world we live in. It's too early for me to jump after Zeke. It really is. Algier, the complimentary back. Atlanta did run the ball more than any team not named the Bears. It went Chicago, Atlanta, Philadelphia. Anthony Richardson goes last pick of the 8th round. Rondale Moore, okay. A.J. Dillon would have loved if he would have fallen to me, but that's just not in the cards. Quentin Johnson should be a very exciting one. I think Herbert could go for over 5,000 yards. We saw this year that defense was not holding up. He's going to have to throw for 300 plus a game to keep his team in it. But James, yeah, I do love the team overall. I think that Dak is very replaceable, and Montgomery, maybe we want to go after somebody like A.J. Dillon, who we've seen in that second complementary role, that handcuff spot, if you will, get some more volume. But I don't hate the Montgomery pick at all. We got to see what happens. Alex Collins, yes, rest in peace. He only got to play 1 year. Had some bright spots, too. Really, really unfortunate. I love Mostert, but he is injury prone. Yeah, I never feel like Mostert is playing an entire season, right? And he had those days with the 49ers where he was just electric. He's still one of the fastest guys in Madden. But yeah, no, 100%. Buffalo, and then I probably go running back at the turn unless I have better options. I don't hate Adam Thielen, to be honest, and I'll explain why in a bit. But we're definitely going Buffalo here. Hope all of you are doing well. Again, make sure you hit that like button if we can get to 10 likes. If you're enjoying this, I will do this again tomorrow if we can get to 10 likes. I will do another mock draft and we'll just go over everything. Just trying to do an open Q&A session, and you guys have been awesome. Thanks so much for joining. Would you like Daniel Jones as your every week starter in a 12-man, 4-point passing touchdown league? I'm thinking about getting depth and not getting a top 8 quarterback. You know what, Randy? By the way, thanks for joining. Make sure you subscribe if you are enjoying this research and this mock draft where I'm going over everything. We're going to go with Adam Thielen. Veteran wide receiver. The very first pass that Bryce Young threw went into his breadbasket. I feel like there's going to be a comfortability there. Would you like Daniel Jones as your starter? You know, Daniel Jones with the rushing upside, he didn't toss a whole lot of touchdowns, but the fact it's 4-point passing touchdowns, Randy tells me, you know, if he can get out in the open field and they keep running those bootleg schemes that Brian Daboll did run a lot, especially when you have Saquon Barkley out there and you've really got to keep those linebackers honest, I'd take Daniel Jones, especially if you're emphasizing getting a ton of flexes, right? If you go here, I took T-Law, I believe, in the 6th round, but if I really wanted to emphasize and go out and get myself a Christian Kirk and get myself a Michael Pittman and get myself a George Pickens, I feel like he was picked a bit high. Treylon Burks, I know this is a mock, but he should not be going that high. He's out for a few weeks. And get myself a Chris Godwin, right, which I was able to get. Then yeah, I'm completely okay with taking a Daniel Jones in the 10th, 11th round, and I feel like you could get away with that. Maybe 9th or 10th. This is a 14-team league, but he already went. But yeah, especially when you have somebody with that rushing upside, Randy, I'm going with Daniel Jones every day of the week. I'm completely okay with that. I don't care if his numbers don't fly off the page. I'll take Daniel Jones happily. We're going to go running back. Just somebody who makes sense. Tyler Algier, Deontay Foreman. Ran the ball the most last year. Showed some more upside and is younger. I feel like even with Bijan, you can't fork the ball over to him 40 times a game. And we're kind of going auto-heavy here. But yeah, Randy, I think Daniel Jones is completely fine. 1 QB, a pair of running backs, a pair of wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. Completely all right with Danny Dimes. He was top 10 last year in fantasy standard PPR. Very okay with that because of his rushing upside and because of the fact he just didn't turn the ball over last year. Danny fumbles was not prevalent last year. He didn't throw a lot of picks. I believe he threw 5. A guy who doesn't make a lot of mistakes and has a high floor is not going to bottom out below 14 to 12 points a whole lot. I'm okay with somebody that consistent if you want to focus on your flexes. Absolutely. James says, sleeper draft with your viewers. Send invite links so we can participate. I could try and get sleeper on here. Go with another flex. Honestly, call me crazy, but with Okonkwo's upside last year, that's trade bait to me. But I'll take the wide receiver one. Oh, okay. I feel like if the 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, tight end flex are stacked, then I just need 15 to 25 from my quarterback. Absolutely, Randy. I mean, if we look, I'll do a little extra for you here. Just got to keep an eye because this is auto heavy. And then, yeah, I can do a draft with you guys. Randy. You got me typing your name in. 1 second. 2022 quarterback points per game fantasy. I mean, there's just not a big gap, right? If you just go on an average standpoint, from QB1, we won't count Davis Webb. I mean, we even can if you really want, but we can go all the way down to 12 here. From QB1 to QB12, from a points per game standpoint, there is a 8-point gap, less than 1 per spot. If you can get a guy who's just consistent, that is completely fine. Robert Woods, a veteran with a rookie quarterback in Stroud. Let's get a solid QB2. Only 2 9s. We'll take Mr. Goff. Yeah, but as I was saying before, Randy, there's just not much of a difference between even the top 12 quarterbacks. So if you can get somebody who's just going to produce, which Danny Dimes definitely did. He was QB9 in standard PPR. Or I guess the point format doesn't matter. This is just a guy who's going to get you that even keel 16, 17, 18.4 points per game with the rushing upside. I love it. He doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. He's got good pieces around him. If I can't get a top-tier QB, thoughts on Lawrence? Yeah, I feel like Lawrence is going to go pretty early, Jason. Lawrence is a top 5 quarterback. I'd say fringe. He has one of the best receiving cores in the entire league. When you go Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, that's a vicious 1-2-3 punch. Evan Ingram, and then a pass-catching running back in ETN. That is my opinion. Yeah, some of these guys, they've got the rushing upside, right? I mean, even Mahomes, for sure. Allen Hurts, definitely Justin Fields. That's the name of the game with Justin Fields, right? That's why he started to explode here. They let him loose in week 6. Daniel Jones. And you got to go down a little bit, but Lamar Jackson. And the rest are pretty pure pocket passers for the most part. Marcus Mariota had some designed runs. Daniel Jones is a very safe play. And if I'm not prioritizing the quarterback position and I want somebody who I know is going to get me 12 to 15 even consistently, where I know he has a high floor, I'm okay with Daniel Jones. It took Greg the leg for me. That is fine. Heavy, heavy auto pick here. So we'll flip over. And get you guys in this. It might AI fill, so if it does do that, I'm just going to go back to ESPN and we can keep talking. We're on again. Pretty deep. Let's just go flex heavy. The book is obviously not written on Anthony Richardson. We'll see if maybe he targets Alec Pierce. Cordero Patterson's up there in age. Not sure how usage is going to be impacted, so we won't assume. We'll just go 10 here. Create new league. That's fine. Redraft. Snake, we'll just do a conventional one. Here's the link. And 1 second. I'll give you guys some time. This will be fun. We could talk through strategy here. You can try and justify to me why you're stretching for somebody, and I'll justify the same if I go after someone. Darnell Mooney, late 9. I like it. Plenty of focus on DJ Moore and maybe Chase Claypool. For sure on Cole Kmet. Juwan Johnson. Had an underrated year. Decent amount of volume. And that's all she wrote, okay? So, went 2 of 3 in the running back category, despite the fact that I was emphasizing how important it is to go wide receiver heavy in a day and age where a running back's not getting 30 touches a game anymore. But those were the cards I was dealt. When you're back half of your order, especially in a 14-team league, I'm okay with that strategy. We went with Waddle. We weren't really able to pair anybody. But when you have a product like Trevor Lawrence, when you've got 2 pass-catching backs like Pollard and Jones, that's the one exception I'll make. If you want to emphasize running backs early, you've got to go after pass catchers, especially in the day and age where there are a ton of dual running back backfields. The handcuff strategy is fine too. And then I just filled with flexes towards the end. I really won't gamble on a lot of rookies. Bijan would be an exception. Anthony Richardson, if you want to go backup quarterback, you can go with him. You can go with Bryce Young. Adam Thielen. Why did I go after him? I was going to kind of explain that to begin with. Adam Thielen is a veteran wide receiver, pretty much their wide receiver one, right, with DJ Moore gone. And the first pass that Bryce Young threw in that preseason game, not to overanalyze, was to Thielen on a comeback route. Now, he stared him down, but Adam Thielen is Mr. Reliable, had a wonderful career in Minnesota, and I feel like he's really going to be that guiding rope for Bryce Young. Who do you rely on? How about a veteran wide receiver who's pretty much done it all? Lawrence, round 5 to 6 for sure. Did you send the link in the chat? James, I'll do that right now, and we will set this for 10 minutes from now. It's a 10-team league. I need you guys to fill this. We will start it tonight, and we'll go 8:45. Time per pick. Let's go. Oh, there's no 45. We'll go 30. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know why I thought it was 8:30. 1 second. You better let me change that. Okay. I'm going to plug that in here. Folks, join the sleeper mock draft. Here we go. So join this, and we go live at 8:50 Central Time. We've got 1 spot filled right now. I see there's 8 of you. We can fill this thing. Does Njoku play well with Watson? Well, we've got to look at a pretty small sample size considering Watson came in through half the season. But if you look at... I love Brandon Ayuk, too. All the training camp. Praise that he's been getting. Obviously, the run blocking and pass blocking down the field. Love, love, love. Again, join this sleeper mock draft right here. Get your friends. We're going to try and fill this thing. Perfect. We've got 3. Got 7 minutes. I'll give you guys 5 more minutes. I know we can do it. Okay. 4. Beautiful. Good to see you in here, Randy. I think there's splits. No. He played from December 4th on. December 4th on. We start with the 11th here. I mean, Njoku went 7 for 59 with a touchdown, so we've got 18.9. 3 for 28, that's 5.8. 2 for 14, that's 3.4. 1 for 21. We saw a mixed bag, right? We saw two really good games. We've got the Pittsburgh game here where they were operating from behind. And then we've got the Cincinnati game where they were also operating from behind. You know, it's a run-heavy scheme, and when you have a dual-threat quarterback like Deshaun Watson, when you're ahead, he's going to be a part of that running scheme as well. But when you're behind, you've got to go throw heavy. So, Jason, I'd say, you know, Njoku's like that tight end 10 range right now. I think he can play well, but you have to rely on this Browns team to win a lot of games. If you think that, you know, Watson's going to use his legs, but if you think that Njoku needs to get more involved, you've got to hope that they lose some games, right? Because then they're going to go pass heavy. And that's just what we're seeing in a very small sample size. What I love about Njoku in general is that, you know, he caught most of his targets, 58 for 80, hovering a little over that 70% range. You know, they throw down the field to him, which we love to see. All right, we've got 11 minutes, 4 in right now. And again, this is just a mock. Or I'll treat it as such. One sec. All right, we need 6 more still. So get your friends and join in. $10 likes. Thank you guys. So I will be doing another mock draft tomorrow and we can go over some more questions. Brian says yes. Sleeper, absolutely. Cameron's downloading the app. But Jason, to answer your most recent question, I feel like the Browns are going to have to lose a decent amount of games. Otherwise, you know, when you're up a lot, you run the ball. And Deshaun Watson is a part of that scheme as well. So I think there's an extra emphasis on the run in Cleveland. They've got a top 5 running back, maybe even top 3, not 3, in Nick Chubb. He is a juggernaut. He'll be phenomenal again. It's going to be tough. Last year, I nicknamed Thielen COVID-19. He was the virus I could not get rid of on my team last year. That's fair. But, you know, Thielen's Mr. Consistent. He's going to hover around 1,000 yards. I think he hits that mark this year. I'd make the same argument that a guy like Robert Woods, right, a veteran wide receiver, how random. He's going to Houston. He's staying in the South, so the competition's weak. You've got a new guy in C.J. Stroud, who everyone, I believe, is definitely reacting verbally to in his first preseason game. What do you do if you are a new quarterback in this league? We've seen it time and time again. You're going to rely on a veteran wide receiver, and maybe Woods isn't that staple one. Maybe he even goes with Nico Collins, but it's definitive in Adam Thielen for Carolina, and that division's wide open too. So I would say there's definitely going to be a heavy emphasis on Adam Thielen. Cam's in here. Let's fill it, folks. We got 5 more spots. I know you can do it. Jason, James, Brian, Cameron. Got to have all you guys in here. Randy, I see you're in here. And then get your friends in here. If each of you can get 1 extra person, we can fill this league up. Brian says, drafting Russell Wilson is an automatic ban from a league. Wonder if he's working on those knee exercises again. Russ had a tough year. You know, Javonte went down. The backfield was an absolute mess. And then Jerry Jeudy was actually pretty healthy. Courtland Sutton, with the exception of the first couple weeks, was pretty much a bust. Dolchich had a decent year, but, I mean, the wheels just completely fell off. And the defense was still phenomenal. In my opinion, That Broncos team, if they had an average middle-of-the-road defense, they might have won one game last year. I'm getting Mahoney and Bills in here. Oh, don't tell us your strat. Just kidding. All right, we need 5 more spots filled, folks. We got 6 minutes to do it. Get your friends. Send that link over. I'll toss it in here again. I appreciate the 10 likes, everybody, so I will be streaming. We'll call it around 6, 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow. I'll schedule it well ahead of time, so a great routine to get in, especially now that I'm back on the grind, right? I'm back on posting every single day. Check in the morning, and I will schedule a stream with the thumbnail, and then you can go in there and comment your questions beforehand. If you comment those questions before I start streaming, I'm going to get to you right away, so you'll get first priority. So by all means, as soon as I've got that stream scheduled for tomorrow ahead of the mock draft, barring any news, any questions you have ahead of your draft, you've already drafted your team, you're in a dynasty league and you're trying to consider a trade, you're doing best ball, toss those my way and you will get first priority. The sooner you put those in there, the sooner you put those questions in there, the more research I can do on there and I can have a whole report up for you. James, my friends. Come on, guys. I know you've got them. Friends, family, they all count. I'm going to cut this down to 8 at least for now. And this is just a mock, so it's going to exterminate itself after this. If I did accidentally set it for something else, then I'll just terminate it. We can do a league together too, but I don't want it to be something this small. I want it to be more planned out. So 3 people, guys. I know you can do it. Young Hoku, absolutely. Yeah, so we'll do this mock. Let's get a couple more, guys. I know you can do it. Here, I'll steal the link. Email it to myself. And I'll send it out as well. But Cameron, Brian, Jason, James, just reach out to one person and you got it. Jeb, welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe. If any of my words of wisdom help you at all, I'm doing as much research as I can to help you out. I feel like my league is the only league in the world that still plays standard. I like watching mocks, but it's hard to take what I've seen and apply it to my future draft when it's PPR. I wish my league would get with the times. I just switched over to PPR about 3 years ago, which personally I feel like was pretty late. Here, Jeb, feel free to join the mock. We've got the link right in here. Just dropped our sleeper link in the comment section. But Jeb, I mean, all that really means is you're going to have to focus more on volume, probably from the backfield. Even in today's day and age, my friends are too busy priorities, right? Come on, put the mock draft at the forefront. Can I join the league? Yep, Pulsar, come on in. We're doing a mock draft. Sleeper link is right there. Hit that and set up a team. I'll push this back a few more minutes for you. We'll go to 9. We got 6. Perfect. 2 more. Where was I? Jeb. It's a standard league, right? So we want more so, volume, and that can be from the backfield. I've been emphasizing all week long, especially with Ezekiel Elliott going to join Ramondre Stevenson in New England, as well as now the Breece Hall and Delvin Cook duo in the backfield. There's something I didn't expect for 500, right? We want to focus on guys who are getting the ball in their hands a ton. That's your Derrick Henrys. That's your Christian McCaffreys, your Austin Eckler. When it's standard, it's just raw points and yards, right, and scores. We want guys who are going to get in the end zone. That screams guys like Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler and even Derrick Henry. But when it's PPR, points per reception, we want at the very least to focus more on those pass-catching backs. But the real emphasis should be on the wide receivers. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. Those are first overall picks, with Christian McCaffrey being the one exception, right? If it doesn't fill with all 10, The sleeper AI auto pick is very realistic. Yeah, it doesn't take the next one, which is super nice. Thank you for the insight, James. So yeah, honestly, Jeb, because it is standard, I know it's kind of annoying, but you're going to see more so your old school. Let's go with that ground and pound running back. If Jonathan Taylor comes back after leaving for personal reasons, we're going to see like that. But yeah. Brian says, Jeb, your league is probably better than my family league that most lost interest after the midway point. You have to keep people invested, right? Brian, something that I think is a super fun idea. Just have an innocent punishment at the end, like the Waffle House one. If you come in last place in this league, you've got 24 hours in this Waffle House. Every waffle you eat, you shave off an hour. Or, you know, there's ones where it's like you go out in public with a clear backpack and you put a bunch of silly items in there. Silly, not illegal. I would say, Brian, that's an awesome way to keep people invested because then you don't want to finish last, so you're at least going to set your lineup. Things get very boring when the bottom half of your league just leaves it out because they know they're mathematically eliminated. So there has to be an incentive to not be last, and I think having a last place punishment, you know, never hurt anybody except for the person in last place. I should go back to, you know, I see a lot of half-point PPR, so there's your hybrid, right, Jeb, if you're still watching. But standard, that's just going to be your guys who get as many yards as possible. So even so, though, I feel like there's a greater emphasis on the wide receiver because we have so many running back duos. 5 minutes. We've got 2 sleeper mock draft spots left. Folks, I'm going to keep dropping this link in here. I know we can fill it. 2 left. We are doing a mock draft here. We can talk through everything, our own strategies. I've told you all I'm pretty wide receiver heavy at the top. Can go from there. I will start up a league. And we hit 10 likes, so I will be doing a mock draft about this same time tomorrow night where I answer all of your questions as I go through as well. All right, 2 spots left to fill. There is the league. Brian says, I live in the Northeast, got to experience Waffle House for the first time and loved it. You know, I have not been to a Waffle House yet. I am from Midwest as well, so I'm from northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. I kind of go back and forth between houses, but that's where I'm from. Northeast. Where from, Brian? Like Maine, New York. You don't have to say exactly, right? Don't drop the address, but I'm just kind of curious where you guys are coming in from. And then we are starting in 3 minutes regardless. I wish we had some up here too. Nothing super nearby. Pulsar says, do you like a 0 running back better than hero running back? I'm going to have you specify on that one, man. Drafting in less than 3 minutes. We'll just deal with a couple of AI spots, but I'll go through these with you. Again, thanks for joining. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you're getting value out of the research I'm doing in terms of answering your questions. I got a whole bunch of tabs open here. And just the whole mock draft experience. And if you want to get ahead of your fantasy opponents by just out researching them, working harder than them, this is the channel to be. Oh, wide receiver heavy or running back heavy? Pulsar, it depends on the format, but if we're going PPR, I'm definitely going wide receiver heavy because with the exception of Austin Eckler and Derrick Henry, those are the 2 blaring ones right now. Probably Bijan Robinson pretty soon. We have a lot of split backfields. We have a lot of backfields where it's a couple of running backs because teams don't want a guy to retire at 26, 27. They want them to be around longer. That has 2 negative repercussions, one of which is in the wallet of the running back. They're not getting a ton of pay. Dalvin Cook, prime example, $8.6 million a year. He's the 10th highest paid running back. You throw that in the quarterback, wide receiver, or even tight end categories, you're not even sniffing the top 10. The other downfall, we're not getting a whole lot of value out of running backs who only get the ball 15, 16, 17 times a game while they're splitting it with somebody else, unless you do the handcuff method, but then you're getting 1 for the price of 2, right? So I would definitely go more wide receiver heavy as we see more and more of these deals spun, and as we see more and more situations like A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, like Ezekiel Elliott and Ramondre Stevenson, like Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. So I would definitely go more pass catcher heavy. If you're going to jump at a running back, let's jump at somebody who catches a lot of balls. So Aaron Jones, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler. All right, we are for sure going at 9. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you're just joining, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. We are on the road to 700 subs. Thank you all so much. Again, streaming tomorrow, doing another mock draft because we did hit our goal of 10 likes. And as a result, we'll be answering plenty more questions for you, covering breaking news. As you can see, we've got the ticker going here. Breaking news with Russell Gage expected to miss the 2023 season, so that opens up an opportunity for guys like Chris Godwin. Really for a variety of people, but especially Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. And of course, Trey Palmer as well. Almost ready to draft here. Do you bet on sports? If so, would you take Herbert plus 165 to have more fantasy points than Mahomes? Mahomes proved to us last year, James, that he doesn't need the most premier weapons in the world to be able to have a great year. We saw decent production from Juju. Obviously, Travis Kelce is the best unmatched tight end in the entire league. Mahomes is a beast, and if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet against him. I'll occasionally do some money line parlays and stuff like that here and there, but I don't know. Herbert's a dog, but especially with the injuries, right, around Herbert, we were down to Joshua Palmer, DeAndre Carter last year, which are solid options. But it's nothing crazy. It's nothing like enough to even out, right, what Patrick Mahomes was able to do. Let's start this draft. Randomized order. So Cameron, you are on the clock. CMC going first overall. Talked a lot about how I'll make the exception first overall with CMC and Austin Eckler just because of the pass catching output that we have seen. Jetta second overall. I mean, I feel like him and McCaffrey are 1A, 1B, right? Said that earlier. I'll take it. LBR, good to see you in here. Who should I take at the 1.09 in a 10-man league? Can't go wrong if Cooper Kupp falls to you, if Tyreek Hill falls to you. If you want to take a running back, I wouldn't be too mad at Bijan. Wouldn't be too mad at, I feel like Austin Eckler could fall, but he probably won't. You're probably looking around A.J. Brown range. I'm just throwing names out here. Stephon Diggs getting up there in age. As I talk my head off, we're going Jamar over Austin Eckler. He's younger. He is obviously a wide receiver, although Eckler does have the pass-catching upside. I'm going Jamar. He was on pace to have a better year last year before he missed a few games. All right, Brian on the clock. Eckler, I like it. Reek goes 6th. Yeah, I'm thinking the A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson range. LBR, obviously, depending on your preferences. Back half of the first, I'll usually excuse taking a higher productive running back in this day and age. But typically, I'm going after wide receiver. I'll go wide receiver, running back, wide receiver. I'll go the running back sandwich. But it all depends on the cards you're dealt for sure. So we've got a couple of wide receiver duos off the AI. We've got Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs. CD goes. I've got an option here. I can go with the best quarterback in the game. I can go after one of the best running backs in Nick Chubb. We'll see if Saquon can stay healthy. That's always a big if. I can go wide receiver duo. I'm going to balance things out with one of the most efficient and honestly still one of the exceptions with running backs splitting reps in the entire league, and that's Nick Chubb. He's been a juggernaut. Like I said, I typically do that running back sandwich. It's really gonna depend. JT obviously left. Let's not do anything hasty here and take him. Amon-Ra is a great pick. Keep forgetting we've got the auto AI in here. But yeah, LBR, to go back to your question, I'm cool with A.J. Brown. I'm cool with Bijan. I'm cool with Garrett Wilson in the first round if he falls to you. My goodness. a guy who had over 1,100 yards with Joe Flacco, Mike White, Zach Wilson, and Chris Streveler under center. I mean, I think it's safe to say we'll see an uptick in production from him when you have a future Hall of Famer under center in Aaron Rodgers. Went wide receiver heavy. Sometimes you got to take the cards you're dealt, right? So I personally don't think a Chris Olave, maybe a Devontae Smith, or a T. Higgins are third-round caliber. I don't want to stretch. I want to see guys who are spiking in value. I feel as if Ramondre is a little high in the projections here. Personally, I'll try not to talk through this too much because you guys do have some decisions to make yourself. Chief, man, I love Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Anytime somebody could pull that off, we are in an 8-man lobby. I'm a big fan of that. We're going to go Pollard. Got one of the best duos, if not the best duo in the entire league there. You've got Derrick Henry, a phenomenal all-purpose guy in the backfield. Now the question looms, right? When you start to jump for that second tight end, there should be a huge gap between Kelce and the rest. And I'll justify Kelce in the first round all day long. All day long. I'm thinking Diggs because of Allen, but he's definitely getting older. Diggs is coming up on 30, right? We've got to keep an eye on that, but we haven't seen that peak in production quite yet where it's plateaued or gone back down. Pulsar, I like my picks right now, but would have liked a Hill-Bijan combo. I'll take my stack. Joey B should be back around week 1 or 2. I'll eat a week, and I can take somebody like a... I'll say it out loud, right? Like a Pickett or a Daniel Jones. I could take somebody lower and ride it out for 1 week. But I got my Burrow-Chase duo here. See, you guys are watching my board. I'm not watching yours, so I kind of got to play poker here, and I can't hang too far on something. Otherwise, you could jump on what I want. Andrews is the second tight end to go. He goes late 4. Don't hate it. We did see a decline in production, but nonetheless, right? 12 likes today. Thank you all so much. I think that's the most we've had in a live stream in a pretty long while. We broke the 10-like threshold, so I will be doing a mock draft tomorrow and answering all of your questions just as I am today. Jahmyr Gibbs goes. I'm going with a pretty solid pass-catching back in ETN. I think there's going to be a lot of focus on the training camp stud and Calvin Ridley. Obviously, Christian Kirk and Zay Jones as well, and Evan Ingram. You could argue that Jacksonville has the deepest receiving core in the entire league, especially when you factor in Mr. ETN, who had a fine season. Came in halfway through as well and took over for James Robinson before he was dealt. Amari Cooper. I mean, that is an AI, but that's definitely a stretch. So I've kind of abandoned the wide receiver strategy here late because I feel like I don't want to stretch for anybody. This is pretty much the same pool we've been operating with the last few picks. The last 3 have been either quarterback or running back. I didn't want to stretch in the 3rd round for somebody like Amari Cooper or Chris Olave. I felt like I could get better value, and I got my Burrow-Chase duo. I got Travis Etienne. I have 3 solid running backs, and I can now abandon that for at least a bit and go after a solid flex. Terry McLaurin's a fringe guy. DeAndre Hopkins is a huge question mark. I don't love Debo because you do have Christian McCaffrey taking up a lot of usage. But I'm going to have to pick from something here. I don't want to let it get too deep. Honestly, I really do love Christian Watson, especially being the wide receiver 1 with a new quarterback coming in. But I don't love him enough to take him this early. I think I'm going with Debo here. He is an all-purpose guy. Not the best situation to be in, but I didn't want to go and stretch for a Watson. Hopkins going right after me. Okay. I don't mind the 6th round, really, especially with the news of Treylon Burks being out for a few weeks. Don't hate it, to be honest. Tino's in here. Corey's back. Good to see you, Tino. I was behind in the stream when I joined. Sorry, I've been auto-drafting, but I'm in. Good to see you, Jason. All good, all good. LBR, can I join the next mock? This might be it for tonight, but Jason, I'm sorry. Not Jason. LBR, I am doing another mock tomorrow, and you guys can join tomorrow. We did hit the 10 likes threshold. Thank you all so much for the support today. So I will be doing another mock draft sometime between 6 and 8 p.m. tomorrow, and I cannot emphasize this enough. It's an open Q&A. If you have any questions you want answered, I will be scheduling that mock draft in the live stream for tomorrow extra early. Go into Fantasy Armchair Athletes on the YouTube page here. Go under the live stream tab. Go onto the live stream. Drop your questions in 5, 6, 7 hours early, and I'll be able to do plenty of research for you. The earlier you drop those questions in, and of course leave a like, the more information I'll be able to get to you. We've got the Burrow-Chase duo. Chief Man's looking dangerous. JT's a big question mark. He left for personal reasons. Bold strategy, Cotton, but to each their own, right? I was waiting for it for a while. Hawk should be fine before week 1. Ear infection. That's something pretty minute from how they're talking about it. I'll take Hawk. A pair of 3 7s, actually. I got to be careful with the bye weeks in 7. 2 9s. Nothing too bad. Kenneth Walker III. I feel like just nobody's talking about the dude. I feel like, if anything, more people are talking about the fact that DeAndre Swift and, of course, Kenneth Walker III's partner in the backfield and Rashad Penny both flew over to Philly. Freiermuth's under the radar guy for sure. Gotta fill that other flex. Drake London's in a run-heavy team. I'm not going to jump all over him. Chris Godwin is a steal in the 8th round, especially with Russell Gage being out for the entire season. Dameon Pierce going 7. Dameon Pierce is a phenomenal, Jeb, if you are still in this live stream, phenomenal standard guy. He's not a pass catcher, but he's going to get a lot of volume, especially in Houston. It's dual flex. They had a lot of problems last year, but Jerry Jeudy getting hurt was not one of them. We'll go Jeudy late here. I didn't want to go double tight end. I can't confidently say that Goddard's going to outperform him. 3 9s and 3 7s with the bye weeks. We got to be careful. But it is a mock. I'll tune in tomorrow. Same time. Yeah, LBR, I'm shooting for, so I live in the Midwest, Central Time. I'm shooting for 7 to 7:30 Central Time. Wanted DJ Moore, Justin Fields combo. Yeah. Fields is going to run a lot still. Believe you me. They had a decent run blocking team last year. Pass blocking was a different story. I'm Chief Man. James, you are killing it, man. Tyler Lockett, end 8. I like it, Cameron. Lockett, Ayuk, Waddle, Jefferson. That is a phenomenal and deep wide receiving core. Tyler Lockett, guys, he could play till he's 33. There's plenty of articles out there where he just talks about the fact that he avoids contact. He's not going to go head first, try and get the extra yard. He's going to take the extra 3 to 4 years on his career and just dive down, and I love it. Weapons, weapons, weapons. We want weapons. What you gonna do, Cameron? Yeah, the guys who I believe are going up, and keep an eye out for the YouTube shorts. I do little 25 to 30-second reports on different transactions. I'll be doing something on Bryce Young and Adam Thielen pretty soon. I'll probably talk about Brandon Ayuk, guys that I believe are going to be up in value and are very underrated. And as a result, you can let hang around until the 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th round before you take them. Those are ones I'm going to be talking about because I feel like you can get the best value. All right. Gotta be careful with my buys. So, in theory, I'd go Eagles here. Love the front seven, love the secondary. Otherwise, I'd love to go 49ers, but Lockett has never been tackled. I swear, Jason, the dude just avoids contact. It's phenomenal. Literally dives every play. Seriously, but why is he still around, right? Why is he still able to put up a 1,000-yard season like 8 years later? It's because of the fact he avoids contact. He's a smart football player, in my opinion. I don't want you guys to read the board too much, so I'm trying to stay off it, but I'm seeing some solid picks, waiting to see how Javonte Williams is going to do. The run blocking wasn't horrible, but it was just a dumpster fire in Denver last year. Obviously, Javonte hurt. Mike Williams was my pick. I'm not going to lie to you, James. But I'll take a defense, and a top defense at that. Here's a rookie I'm willing to reach for, especially with Lockett getting a little older. I think he'll still produce, but I think the door is opening for a guy like Jackson. I've got 3 really solid running backs. Otherwise, I'd be tempted to go with Pacheco, who was pretty efficient, and for the first time in a while, the Chiefs were leaning towards the running back. But we'll roll with this for now. And by leaning, I mean ever so slightly, right? Brian said, for a second, I thought this was an actual draft for a real league. Someone stole Hurts and Fields from me. This is not an actual draft, just a mock. I can do an actual draft with you guys. But this one, I'm just terminating the league right after. I don't use Sleeper a ton on browser mode. I'll go off the phone. So this might be an actual league, but I can delete it. So. And if I can't, we'll just leave it. Are you going to review the teams when done? Yeah, James, I'll look at the teams. James, right off the bat, I got to say you had a pretty big advantage with Kelsey Mahomes. I'm looking for duos here. I've got Chase and Burrow. Herbert Allen. It's tough to do it with a guy like Lamar, right? But yeah, solid teams here. I'm not picking kicker until like the very end. I'll tell you all that right now. I'll be very transparent. Treylon Burks, you guys are all passing the eye test. If you didn't hear before, he is down for at least a few weeks with a knee sprain, so probably not ready for week 1 or 2, maybe around 3. We're going to monitor that for sure. I'll go out and get a 4th running back. Just watching the buys here. Very efficient is Isaiah Pacheco. Montgomery's going to be the 2. Dillon is a very productive 2, but I'm taking a 1 over a 2 more times than not. James Cook, ready for him to have a year, right? He is sharing the backfield with Damian Harris out of New England, but don't hate it. James Cook's efficient, man. It's a small sample size, but I mean, shoot, I'll take 5.77 yards per carry. Relatively involved in the receiving department, too, all things considered. Didn't get a whole lot of snaps. Snap percentage was never above 50 until the last week of the season. And he still had over 700 yards of offense. I'm excited for James Cook. Flex 2. Sometimes I honestly, especially in PPR, will go with another tight end. And when you have a guy in Pat Freiermuth who was 5th in the league for tight ends in targets per game last season, I'd say it's worth it. No, James Cook wanted him. Yeah, I know that's rough. Jason says, was working during most of this. Guess I missed your opinion on Bijan. All good, man. You believe in the hype. I mean, when you have a guy in Bijan Robinson who's getting the most hype since dare I say it, Saquon Barkley, and he might even be getting more hype. He's got the build of him. He's honestly almost got the build of Derrick Henry, but with more speed and pass catching upside. And you have a team in Atlanta that is built for the run. They ran the ball more than every team not named the Bears last season. I feel like the table is set for Bijan Robinson. So, Jason, I am definitely believing the hype. I'd go late 1, early 2. Running backs, if the table set around them like it is for Bijan, I like the odds. And now we kind of just scrape for pretty decent flexes. Kadarius Toney, can he stay healthy? That's the question. Juju in New England, they don't throw the ball much. Gabe Davis, big play guy. I look more for consistency. We'll go Kadarius. That's a nice pick. Queue up some productive kickers. See, I have not been queuing because you guys can see my picks, but good experience nonetheless. There's a gap there, so I'll emphasize getting a decent kicker, and that's probably where everyone's going right now, but not so much, honestly. McPherson, those clutch kicks 2 years ago. In his rookie season, taking that team all the way to the Super Bowl. Obviously didn't do it himself, but... Carlson. Okay. That's what I get for kind of looking at him. Tyler Bass plays for a team that scores plenty of points, a dynamic offense in the Bills. I'll take him. Jake Elliott kind of is in that same department. McManus. New faces and new places. And so if you guys are just joining, just doing a mock draft, actually did one before this and now doing one with you guys, which is pretty cool. We're able to fill up most of the pool. And because we got over 10 likes today, we will be doing another one tomorrow. I'll make it an interactive one. Maybe I'll start with a regular one and then go interactive. And yes, I will be reviewing the teams after this. Of course, make sure you like and subscribe if you're getting value out of this live stream. And if you have any fantasy football questions, you drop them in here. Some information I dropped at the beginning. Russell Gage likely out for the entire season. And Treylon Burks out for a few weeks. There's a good 15-second lag between when you actually pick and when we see you. Could really jack with us if you wanted to. I could. I definitely could. I've got some power there, but I'll be nice. The fact Daniel Jones is still around. I forget this is an 8 team, but we'll go with that. McManus was in Denver for 9 years. Wow. Who was the first overall pick this year? I wonder how he was ranked. Bryce Young. You guys did not want him. 8-team league, though. Can't blame you. Okay, let's look around. For J-Sack. Trevor Lawrence, CMC with the first overall. I like it. Breece Hall, taking a bit of a gamble considering that Dalvin Cook is the 10th highest paid running back, so I feel like anytime somebody makes that much money, especially out of the backfield, they're going to get used. Amon-Ra, Mr. Volume. You've got one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the league in Devontae Adams. So he's right behind Jay Jetta. Mark Andrews looking for a bounce-back year. Scary Terry, J.K. Dobbins, Justin Tucker. Patriots D, not a bad way to go. You've got one half of the backfield in Philadelphia for one of the biggest and most run-heavy teams in the league, Rachaad White. Bit of a gamble there. Quentin Johnson going with some youth. Antonio Gibson. Is it his backfield? Is it Brian Robinson's? and then Juju. All right. I'd say strengths definitely at quarterback and wide receiver. Amon-Ra and Devontae is absolutely nasty. Backfield is top-heavy for sure. We have Christian McCaffrey, the juggernaut, but is Breece Hall going to do well enough? Is J.K. Dobbins? I mean, you can always file in a Quentin Johnson or a Juju Smith-Schuster. And then Rashad and Antonio, I feel like you might be cycling those guys out throughout the league, right? Or throughout the year. Cameron. Jalen Hurts, you got yourself the top 3 fantasy QB, my friend. Saquon Barkley coming off a bounce-back year. Dalvin Cook. You know, that's where the money's at. I feel like he's going to have at least more volume this year than Breece Hall, if everybody stays healthy. Jetta, you got the best wide receiver in the league. Jetta and Waddle. Kittle, Ayuk, Lockett, McPherson. The San Fran defense. This is a well-rounded team. I mean, you have a top 3 quarterback. You've got a little shallowness if Dalvin doesn't get his use as much as we want him to. And then Cam Akers, and that's it. So you've got 3 running backs. But I think you make up for it with the pass catchers in Jetta, Waddle. I'd say those are 2 top 10. Ayuk, who's fringe top 15, in all honesty. I think he takes over for Debo this year. Lockett, who doesn't take contact. Mike Evans. McKinnon, who was a monster the last few weeks. I know you were paying attention to that, Cameron. That's why you took him. And Brock Purdy. All right. This might be the best one because we've got Patrick Mahomes, best guy in the game. Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor. Taylor, I'm scratching my head at a little bit because he did leave the team today for personal reasons, but if you didn't see that, all things considered, if you also just want to take the risk, all power to you. DeAndre Hopkins taking a bit of a gamble there, and then DJ Moore. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, I mean, that's 50-point city, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, Alexander Mattison. This has a lot of talent at the top, and then I'm seeing a little bit of dwindling towards the end. Tua is nasty, of course, if he can stay healthy. You've got the most talked about tight end in the league right now outside of Travis Kelce, Jordan Addison, Mike Williams. If those starters can stay healthy, I think you're outscoring everybody. Brian Hurts, dude, he's got one of my favorite duos in the league that won me a league 2 years ago and got me top 3 last year. Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler, especially with those dump-off passes. Alvin Kamara is a big question mark right now. CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith, Kamara with the discipline issues, obviously. Kyle Pitts, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Harrison Butker. I love it. Christian Watson, I'm a big fan of taking the wide receiver 1 when you've got a new quarterback, if they lean on him, and that's a big if. Michael Pittman, Deshaun Watson, got some usage with the legs there, and see if he can get comfortable with a full season under his belt. Almost a full season. Once he hits about week 8, he will have that. A.J. Dillon and Njoku, so you've got a bit of a pairing here on the bench. This is a pretty well thought out and even team, Brian. I like Herbert and Eckler. I'd say the strengths are definitely quarterback and pass catching in general. You've got 2 solid tight ends, too. Pitts and Njoku, still waiting for Pitts to show up, but you know, you waited till the 9th round. It's not like a couple years ago where people were taking him in the 4th round. This is an AI. I won't look too much into it. Same with that one. So we'll go upsides. Justin Fields, Bijan Robinson. You have Justin Fields in the most run-heavy team in the entire league, referencing 2022 statistics. You have Bijan Robinson, the 2nd most run-heavy team, referencing 2022, and obviously the biggest prospect since Saquon Barkley, maybe even larger. A pass-catching back in Aaron Jones. I love that because we could have a lot of dump-offs with Jordan Love if he struggles throwing the ball down the field. Garrett Wilson could be a top 5 wide receiver. Calvin Ridley could go nuts. You took him in the 3rd, but we'll see if the risk pays off. Darren Waller, I'm getting a lot of preseason hype. Chris Olave had a phenomenal rookie year. Want to see him get in the end zone a little more. Dameon Pierce is a volume guy. Doesn't catch a whole lot of passes. Best kicker in fantasy the last couple of years. Miami Dolphins taking a bit of a gamble there. They do give up their fair share of points. Pickens, plenty of talent there. Williams, want him to stay healthy. Deontay Johnson. So you've got 2 Pittsburgh wide receivers. Michael Thomas. You know, I see some injury potential here, but I don't hate it, right? Thomas, we've seen that. Javonte Williams was last year. Darren Waller the last couple of years. Calvin Ridley more so on the gambling end. Not so much injury. But really well-rounded teams, honestly. It's okay to rate my team as last. It's my first mock of the year. Jason, you did solid. I feel like I did well. Again, lots of wide receivers. Can we do 10 team tomorrow? Breece was auto-picked. Jason, if we can get 10 people on this stream at the same time so that we can fill that thing with 10, I'm all down for 10 tomorrow. This was a ton of fun. Down for it again tomorrow. I agree, Brian. Guys, let's do it again tomorrow around, we'll call it 7 or 8 o'clock. Check in the morning, set your alarms, and ask your, I don't know why I said it like that, ask your questions in the live stream. I'm going to schedule it super, super early tomorrow, so you'll have the thumbnail up there. Go in the chat, drop your questions in 7, 8, 9 hours early, right? The countdown will be up. That way, the earlier you drop your questions, the more time I can dedicate to research to give you a more thorough answer. Then we'll do some mock drafts. I'm going to delete this one in a little bit. I can do some mock drafts with you guys on Sleeper as well, but it has been an absolute blast. So thanks so much for tonight. Again, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you got value out of the information provided. Was this set up as an actual draft? Seems like this was a league setup. Brian, I should be able to delete it, but it was set up as a mock. At least that was my intention, so I should be able to delete it pretty soon. Because if I do a draft with you guys, I want to give more people a chance to do it. We've got 3 AIs in here, so I'll set that up. But everyone, thank you for joining. As always, drop any questions I was unable to answer in that comment section. Drop some in the comment section ahead of the next live stream tomorrow. I'm facing... yeah, that's Cameron's team. But make sure you like and subscribe to Out-Research Your Fantasy Opponent. That's what we're here to help you do. Stay tuned for more live streams and videos in the coming days, and get ready for quite the season in 2023 to 2024. Have a wonderful night, everybody.